as we approach the end of the year, we want to do a final wrap on another one of our favorite AI companies, which is Google. We want to talk about where Google's come from this year, where we think they are today, some interesting breaking news about Google. We're always going to throw that in, of course, in every episode. But we really want to talk about where they are as a company. We were very, I would say, critical of Google, especially at the beginning of the year, based off of what felt like a slow adoption. They're trying to get this huge engine, which is the beast of Google, with so many employees up and running. And it feels like they may have achieved that by the end of the year. So we're going to talk about a bit of that journey, where we think they're going. And yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting episode. So Connor, just based off of everything you've seen this year, what's your overall kind of gut feeling on where Google's at today?
I think Google's in a phenomenal position today. In fact, I think I'm ready to declare them the company of 2025. I think that they are just finally positioned. Google is, so first of all, I think we did a previous podcast on this, but think about all the huge releases they just dumped. And I think that they kind of give OpenAI a little bit of their own medicine. Usually OpenAI was trying to front run them whenever Google said, hey, we have a demo coming on Tuesday. Then on Monday, OpenAI would drop something crazy. And Google did that right in the 12 days of shipments for OpenAI. All of a sudden, they had this mega day where they all of a sudden started talking about Gemini 2.0 and Project Mariner and Project Astra and all these things, which originally were teased in Google I/O and are now coming to fruition. Real agent stuff. And again, we've talked about agents before, but this is when essentially AI doesn't just answer your questions, but can literally take over and complete tasks for you. And Google is leaning heavily into that, which is huge because their customers are Google Cloud customers and Google Workplace customers. And if they have AI agents going, then they are going to potentially own this space. They are that big. Yes, we have seen a lot of the smaller companies really picking at them in terms of search, right? Google was owning 92% of search. That number is going down, trickling down, but Perplexity has taken a chunk out of them. I think ChatGPT search has taken a chunk out of them, et cetera. But again, Google has a huge advantage. Everybody knows it. It's like Apple and the iPhone. Everybody's eyeballs are already on Google. So for me, the exciting thing was that Google was very quietly shipping things throughout the course of the year, especially for developers, and developers getting pretty excited. But I want to, Jaeden, ask you about this because I think that we have now the Goldilocks Google, right? In the beginning, they were trying to ship things too fast. The demos were going wrong. Their image generators were going wrong. Everything was just really blowing up in their face in big public ways, like put glue on pizza. And, this, Nazi soldier is actually Filipina. It's just like a lot of things that made for great headlines. Google has gone off the deep end. And then they sort of went quiet, I feel like, a lot this year, Jaeden, right? They kind of went, listen, we're just going to ship things quietly to developers. And now I feel like at the end of 2024, leading into 2025, they are the just right Goldilocks situation here where they're saying, we now have everything ready to go. Not all of it is available. Got to give kudos to OpenAI for releasing Sora. And on some of these tools, Google has not released yet. They have Veo. They have Imagine 3, I think it is, things like that. But what I feel about Google, and what I think that a lot of people are leaning this way too, I don't think I'm alone on this, is that, Jaeden, to exactly your point, they are the 800-pound gorilla. And it took them a while to get going. But once they get going, it's very hard to slow that momentum.
100%. I want to talk about some of the interesting things they've done, but first of all, we have to give a shout out to our friend Logan Kilpatrick over at Google. And by the way, if you're not watching this, you can see the actual video for this podcast, which we share a screen, we go through articles and share people's tweets and clips and videos and stuff. But that's over on Spotify or on YouTube, where there's a link in the description to YouTube. So go check that out if you haven't already. Logan Kilpatrick, we have to give him some credit. He's come on the podcast in the past, great fan of the pod, and he is now working over at Google. And I actually credit him to really helping raise awareness for just how much Google was shipping and helping them get some things up to speed. We talked about him we talked with him when he first got there, and he said, it was a bit of a project he needed to do because they weren't really known for shipping at tons and talking about it tons. So he's kind of like, in my opinion, like the PR arm of Google and kind of for their developers what they're doing. So go check him out and follow him on LinkedIn if you haven't already. And he really has kept us up to date with a lot of stuff going on, and not just us, but everyone. I mean, it's thousands of likes on his tweets. He's quite a legend. So the thing that I want to say is Google, again, just like OpenAI, I think at the end of the year really pushed out a ton of stuff that like you feel like they just really, really hustle to get this done before the year so that they can end the year on a strong note. If there's any sort of lull in development activity over the holidays, which I think especially to a big company like Google, you're definitely going to see, they wanted to get everything done. So I give them some credit for pushing this out. We could talk about Gemini 2.0, which is massive. Gemini 2.0 Flash, which is essentially just much, much faster than Gemini 1.5 Flash. It's kind of like the Google 4.0 Mini, whatever. I think it's amazing that they're doing the same thing as OpenAI and having kind of these faster models, and they're more in-depth models. And really, I think what I give them a lot of credit for with these 2.0 models that they have coming out right now is that they're built for agents. They literally say
Yeah.
our new AI model for the agentic era. So, and I love this term agentic. It's it's so I don't know, it's so funny. So I'm
Yeah,
sure we're going to be
future.
hearing that a ton. So we know because of OpenAI's roadmap that they've released, the next step that OpenAI, after these reasoning models they've come out with and are kind of perfecting, the next step for them, which is going to be 2025, is agents. This is what they're focusing on. They're going to be working on agents, and that's essentially these AI models that take control of your computer or your browser, or they have a program on there, or maybe your virtual machine. I imagine this is kind of where it's going to go to. Maybe that's a great business idea for somebody. Maybe I'll build that into AI Box. Who knows? Stay tuned. But I think that agents are really where everything's going. So big kudos to Google and Gemini 2.0 for really making sure that this model is ready to go with agents. And they've specifically in relation to that, have released Project Mariner, which is agents that can help you do a bunch of different complex tasks. Essentially, it's taking control of your Google Chrome browser, right? So these companies always have to use the real estate they have on your computer, and so Google has this distribution of Google Chrome, which is a majority of all browsers in the US. And so now they're able to kind of use that and leverage it to make this really cool product. And also this product, if it's useful, people are going to download and use Google Chrome just to have access to this, where you're essentially like a prompt, you're saying, go and accomplish XYZ thing, go look at these different websites, go fill out these different spreadsheets, similar to what we're seeing coming out of Anthropic. So I think actually Google and Anthropic are leading the way on these on this kind of agent play. I think OpenAI is probably not far behind. They're going to come out with something pretty powerful here as well. But yeah, kudos to Google for building this. And yeah, just a lot of really impressive stuff. I don't know, Connor, any other interesting projects that you're
Yeah,
particularly
I
excited
like
about?
that you brought this up. I like that you brought this up because Anthropic came out with computer use. Again, I just the names of these things, they're just so bad. Like this is why I love like Project Mariner and Project Astra. It's like, thank you, Google, for just giving us something, So I think that when we see what these agents are like, I'm very curious to sort of see how quickly they are going to be useful. Again, it's much more like in demo right now. It's sort of like when we're talking about things like Sora or Google's new VO, or maybe it's VO2, which is their video generator. Runway has a new image video generator. All these things. It's not like you are going to make a ton of use of this video generator. When everybody talks about it, I don't see a ton of people using this B-roll because you have to do so many iterations of it before you get to something useful. So I don't think that that's super, super practical right now. But I think that it sort of tells the story of agents as well, which is we are going to be able to test these things out and start getting used to it and watching demos and things like that. But what's actually going to happen? Like, what are they actually going to change? And I think that Google will really drive that. The thing that our friend Logan brought up at one point, what he's like, you have to remember with all these things, Gemini is running it underneath. Gemini is an incredibly powerful large language model. It's arguably the most powerful out there, actually. I mean, I use it probably third after ChatGPT and Claude. I use Gemini. I pay $20 a month for Gemini as well, just because I just like to test it every once in a while. I like that it has a verify with Google button right in there. It's amazing at taking in videos. It does a lot that the other things can't do, but it's just powerful. But Jaeden, the other thing that we have to remember that Gemini can run is things like Notebook LM. And I think that, Notebook LM was a child star at the end of 2024. It came out, everybody was sort of blown away by it. And now there's been an update even with that. So even with all their like big updates, their big powerful updates, they also said, hey, we also have a new Notebook LM where it's not just like you listen to a podcast. Imagine if you're listening to a podcast, and imagine if you're listening to me or Jaeden, and more likely you're listening to me right now, and you'll be like, oh, I wish I could interrupt Connor because he sounds like an idiot. You can do that with Notebook LM. You can join the conversation. So what I like about what Google's doing is that it's understanding where its core business essentially will come from, which is all the developers, everything like that. But it also understands that you need the things that keep you in the headlines. You need the things that keep people excited, like things like Notebook LM. Now, are there tons of use cases for Notebook LM? Maybe, but you really have to find them yourself. Spotify Wrapped is using Notebook LM to talk to you about, your playlist, and who doesn't love hearing about themselves? So I think Google is doing a great job. Again, this Goldilocks thing of balancing. We need like the powerful engine underneath, but we also want to put out these fun things at the end.
Speaking of fun things, a couple interesting things that I feel like flew under the radar that you might not know about that I just wanted to bring up as we're wrapping this up. Of course, Project Mariner, the agents are coming. They also released something called Jules, which is agents for developers. I think that this is really interesting. It integrates directly into your GitHub workflow. So I think this is going to be very useful, and that's smart of them, even though GitHub's owned by Microsoft, like making that integration and working with some of their competitors is going to be a key to success. They're also working on agents in games and other areas. Google DeepMind apparently has a long history of using games to help AI models become better at following rules, planning, and logic. And so they've been working on some really interesting things with Clash of Clans and other stuff that I think is really interesting. So they're collaborating with a bunch of different game developers like Supercell to look at how these agents would work. And I think the most obvious is like having the NPCs inside of games just be AI models that can talk and can go and actually do things. I think it's going to be really interesting. It's not just a computer program where, a character in a game is programmed to do X, Y, and Z. Like these things could sort of have a mind of their own inside of games, which is very interesting. And then, of course, they're really focused on building responsibly with these agents. These things could go off the rails very quickly and use your credit card or do something you don't want. And so I think Google's taking it very seriously and building these things to be very, very secure and working well. So really prioritizing users' instructions, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited about everything Google has come out with this year. I think, Connor, you're right that we're going to see really this being kind of the year of Google, where they come up with a lot more exciting stuff and probably get our hands on a lot of this stuff that has been in the works for quite a long time. And I think we're going to start seeing some major shifts in how we literally interact with technology, all because of this and all because of agents that are coming from Google.
Yeah, no question. I think that this is going to be a super exciting. Hopefully, I think January is going to be pretty quiet. It has to be. I don't know how they can keep on shipping, but take a deep breath, take it all in. Remember that you don't have to know about all of these updates, folks. Okay, you can just track along with them. Just kind of keep them in the back of your mind. Remember that a lot of these things from Google haven't actually been released yet, so don't feel like you're missing out, and especially don't feel like you're missing out on these tools that everybody else is using. It's not really like that. You want to use the tools that will help you in your workday, and then things like Sora and other video generators and things and other things, Notebook LM. These are fun things to play with. If you can find a use case for them, great. But for the most part, AI applied is just about this is where you are. This is your journey and everything else. Don't worry about the technology racing ahead. It's just fun to watch like a crazy animated movie. Guys, thank you so much for joining us again. We're breathless trying to kind of keep up with all this information, but it's been super, super exciting. And we would love it as a Christmas present to Jaeden. Jaeden doesn't even have anything under his tree. All he has under his tree is, I just pray that somebody leaves us a rating and review. So if you want to put that Christmas present under the tree for Jaeden, this is it. This is your moment. We'd so appreciate it. We appreciate you. And we will see you next time.